Assalamu alaikum, friends and viewers. Today, I want to invite you on a journey through truth, not the filtered version of it, but the whole truth as it has unfolded over the decades at the highest international forum, the United Nations Security Council. It's related to Kashmir, the unresolved issue, and the role of UNSC. Why so? Because recently, as Pakistan and India's 2025 war ended, I saw a few clips coming up, and I came across a re-upload of an older clip in which respected academic Christine Fair responded rather sharply to a young Pakistani Fulbright student, telling him to read and understand Resolution 38, the very first in the Kashmir file. But the question is, can you understand a story just reading the first paragraph? What I present to you today is not a polemic, it is a timeline of facts based, publicly available UNSC resolutions that evolved with the ground realities, beginning with the demand on Pakistan to withdraw first and moving to simultaneous withdrawal plans. uh, even went to eventually call towards bilateralism um, and peace along the line of control. This vlog is an attempt to give our younger generation scholars and international observers a complete picture. Yes, I am going to make this attempt because knowing only a piece of the truth can be more misleading than knowing nothing at all. So let's begin today's journey, the investigation into the events 1947 to present. The tribal incursion 1947, threat or pretext, um, all started uh, with this news that tribal people from the Pakistan side had uh, crossed into the Kashmir to topple the government of the then Hari Singh's rule. Different people have reported different numbers, but briefly about 2,000 tribesmen, as per British sources, they crossed into the Kashmir, and mostly said the motivation was loot driven, not ideological. Now, question is, why did Hari Singh panic and sign accession as he was having a 9,000 strong, well equipped army, outnumbering the tribesmen by at least four times? There was an internal revolt. Kashmiri Muslims majority, 77%, were rebelling against his oppressive rules. Many documents can be seen online about the unfair taxes and forced labor he had imposed on his Muslim subjects. What does how did India manipulated the situation? If it was not all orchestrated, Mountbatten and Nehru insisted accession was the only way to get military aid. And VP Menon just rushed to Srinagar to secure the signed instruments. Now, if you look into the timings of Indian intervention, now it is stated that on October 24, invasion by tribal men took place. And it's interesting that Indian media says a widespread fire, looting, arsoning, and killing took place. But on October 24, these tribal men enter into Kashmir. On October 26, hardly 2 days later, Hari Singh signs the accession, doesn't even allow or make his forces, well equipped, trained forces, to counter those far less number of tribal men, rather preferred to sign the accession. October 27, less than 24 hours later, Indian troops, led by British officers, fly into Srinagar. Oddity: Indian army arrived too fast, suggesting pre planning. Was the tribal incursion a false flag? India exaggerated the threat to justify annexation. Example: Nehru claimed tribesmen were massacring Hindus, but later reports from the British officials found minimal sectarian violence. A few hundred tribesmen shouldn't have terrified Hari Singh into surrendering his kingdom, from which, after accession's signing, India dismissed him and he died in exile. Let's look, how does India justify this today? India India's official narrative is Hari Singh freely chose India. Reality: he signed under duress. There were three things or three factors. Apart from the Indian pressure, um, there was a tribal threat and there was internal revolt by the Muslims against his oppressive rule. So, whatever he signed to protect his kingdom, was the so called kingdom, was under duress. Pakistan, the second point there is that Pakistan invaded first, so we had to intervene. Reality is that the invasion was overstated. First, second is Pakistani army never went there. They were the independent tribal people who went there. So how could Pakistan have invaded? So this invasion by the independent tribal people was overstated. Why? Because one, they were untrained, reportedly, and documented, and they were not very well equipped even to fight, and they were hardly having any artillery to fight. So even the army of Hari Singh would have managed to tackle them on their own. However, India's response was disproportionate, and they claim accession was legal. Technical truth: the instrument of accession does exist, but its legitimacy is disputed. Would you imagine in today's world that a nation asks another nation for help, say whether it is because of the earthquake or whether it is because of the terrorists or whatever, and the other country would say, I will help, but my help is linked to you giving the ownership or the accession to us. So would that be acceptable? How could have Hari Singh had said the same? So must have been pressurized. That's my analysis. So it was signed under coercion, violated the principle of partition. Another point on that is it was a overwhelmingly dominated Muslim majority area, and it was also adjacent to the mainland West Pakistan at that time. So when the region proximity was there, majority of population was also Muslim. As per the partition principle, where the Muslim majority areas were to become Pakistan and Hindu majorities to become India, it would have been, it should have been considered as part of Pakistan. Um, Interesting, another thing factor is cognitive dissonance. India cites law when convenient, like in Junagadh and Hyderabad, but ignores it in Kashmir, suggesting Indian forces entered on the request of Hari Singh, who wanted to save his throne by inviting the British led Indian army. Was that really so? What was Hari Singh's fate? Once he signed the accession in October 1947, India never restored his rule. By 1949, he was sidelined. In 1952, Kashmir's monarchy was formally abolished. He was barred from returning to Srinagar after 1947, and he died in exile in Mumbai 1961. Conclusion: was India's action justified? No, not by the standards of 1947. As mentioned earlier, Kashmir was Muslim majority and bordered the then West Pakistan, or today's Pakistan. Princely state rules, Kashmir should have gone to Pakistan being the Muslim majority. Accession was forced. Hari Singh signed to save his throne, not his people. Later, we saw um, none other than the Indian Prime Minister Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru himself, gave his words to the world and United Nations that plebiscite will take place and was the only fair solution. India reneged after securing control, turning its back to all of its pledges and promises. And it didn't do that only with Kashmir. At the time of partition, there were more than 560 princely states. Those were given pledges, promises, securities, all were broken. As we saw, within a couple of years, all were merged into the present India. The tribal incursion was minor, untrained, ill equipped, versus 9,000 well trained and well equipped Hari Singh's army. Why did then India made Hari Singh to sign the accession remains a mystery. What could have been the right approach? Partition logic, Muslim majority regions like Punjab, Bengal. Though I even have some reservation on this matter too, because Punjab was divided, even though as one Punjab there was a Muslim majority, but India made partition so that whatever Hindu Sikh majority was to be made part of India. Similarly, in Bengal, the overall majority were of Muslim, but they were partitioned in a way that India could retain where the Hindu majority or in the developed area was. So, Muslim majority being as the principle of the partition logic was there, should have gone to Pakistan. Geography is also that connected to Pakistan via Jhelum Valley Road is isolated from India by mountains. That was one of the reasons that unfortunately the Muslim populated majority districts, such as there were many, but Jalandhar was the one that was, if I remember correctly, connecting to the having a road connection to Kashmir, and it was forcefully taken over by the Indian side and made part of the present land India. Um, yes, it is mentioned by eyewitness accounts that pro Pakistan sentiments were present in Kashmir in 1947. So partition and princely states, was there a double standard? Yes, if we look into the Kashmir, Hyderabad, and Junagadh cases, they were all handled inconsistently favoring India. Junagadh, 1947, Muslim ruler was there, Hindu majority in population, but India forced accession. Hyderabad, 1948, Muslim ruler, however, were having Hindu majority once again. India annexed it militarily. Police action took place, and it was taken over by the Indian government. Kashmir 47-48, Hindu ruler, but overwhelmingly Muslim majority. India accepted accession, but under conditional terms in that accession that plebiscite will be held to find out the will of the people. And this plebiscite promise was also made by Nehru Pledge, which still exists in the UN archives under the document S726. That was his pledge. The fate of other 565 princely states was not different. Despite pledges, promises, and securities pacts, they were taken over. All lost their chosen autonomous status to India. The why then Kashmir stood out was because um, the Kashmir was became international dispute due to Pakistan's intervention. Uh, Historians often critically look into Mountbatten's role. He did favor India, maybe because he was denied the governor general position in Pakistan, whereas India accepted his governor generalship, and maybe because of his close connections with uh, the Indian National Congress leader, Nehru. This is well reasonably documented and can be searched or looked into archives. British also wanted a strong India, it is said, as a Cold War ally, and Mountbatten haste in partition, and arguably his closeness to the Nehru influenced his decisions. What about United Nations and UNSC resolutions? So there is not one. There are 18 resolutions which were passed till 1971. So I have grouped them into three um, sections. So, group one was initial ceasefire and demilitarization. And it was stressed that Pakistan withdraw first and India reduces its presence as far as force is concerned later. These were the resolutions 38, 39, 47, and 51. But if you could note, interestingly, the time span was hardly 6 months in which these four resolutions were passed between January 17, 1948 to June 3, 1948. Group 2, simultaneous, the focus was changed from the unbalanced previous resolutions. So, simultaneous demilitarization and plebiscite under UN observation was stressed. These started from Resolution 80 onwards and are well documented in Resolutions 80, 91, 96, 98, 122, 123, between the period of 7 years that starts from the March 14, 1950 to December 2nd, 1957. So after that, there was another resolution, peace along LOC and bilateral resolution due to 1971 war, and that's the grouping. After which, United Nation hasn't changed its stance. It still wants what it has initially. Uh, Even Indian leaders pledged that plebiscite or the will of Kashmir should be given priority in form of plebiscite, and that would help resolve the Kashmir dispute as per UNSC resolution. These UNSC resolutions are very much alive and unchanged. This was made clear recently in 2020 by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who reiterated that UNSC resolutions for Kashmir in form of plebiscite still very much there, and he would like that to happen in his tenure. He publicly called for the implementation of UN Security Council's resolutions on Kashmir, specifically mentioning the need for plebiscite to determine the region's future. This has been reported by many news, including Al Jazeera, and can be found out through Google search regarding the same. This call reiterated the UN stance on Kashmir dispute, which has been ongoing since 1948. Summary I just made. In other words, um, if you are interested, the Group 1 ceasefire, in other words, no more fighting between India and Pakistan, but Pakistan was to withdraw first. This happened in 1948 only, for the 6 months, strongly central. Group 2 of the resolutions were between 1950 and 1957, simultaneous withdrawal plus UN mediation, and under its supervision to hold the plebiscites, change the implementation process of the earlier resolutions. Uh, Group 3, peace along LOC plus bilateralism. Um, and it is still going on. So, as far as plebiscite focus is concerned, it is still unchanged. Um, UNSC resolutions respect Kashmir's people's voice and aims for plebiscite as the peace full mean for Kashmir resolution. We often see Kashmiri diaspora protesting peacefully for peace and the right to self determinations on all possible platforms where they see gathering of the world leaders. And it is still going on. As recent as this very month, we saw the same Kashmiris peacefully demonstrated for Kashmir issue to get implemented as per the UNSC resolutions during the G7 summit in Calgary, Canada. The banners emphasized UN resolutions on Kashmir, the United Nations right to self determinations, and the Kashmir issue. This protest took place, or not protest, rather, um, presentation of their case took place on June 17, 2025. You can once again search and you can see the banners providing the same information. Um, Now, having said that, I'll briefly go through because this was the time, this was not the resolution 80 was the one which changed the focus, and is till now it remains the same. In December 1949, the Canadian president of the UNSC, General MacNaughton, issued both states on the 22nd December his proposal, and later his final report on the 3rd Feb 1950. His proposal enclosed a scheme whereby Pakistan and India would simultaneously withdraw their regular forces. Pakistan accepted his suggestion, but India proposed far reaching amendments which amounted to a rejection. The proposals treated India and Pakistan as equal participants in this dispute, which was not acceptable to India, at least at that time, and probably still now. In December 1949, this Canadian general, took this bold and fair initiative. And instead of waiting for another military escalation, he proposed the simultaneous withdrawal. This was the major shift from earlier plans that demanded Pakistan's withdrawal first. And under his plan, as mentioned earlier, even the northern areas would be demilitarized, but local administration would continue, however, under United Nations supervision to ensure neutrality and transparency. This was the clear step towards creating conditions for a peaceful and fair plebiscite. Pakistan accepted, but India responded with sweeping amendments that effectively rejected the core idea, mainly because plan was treating the two countries equally towards the dispute, something India found politically unacceptable. His 1949-50 proposals reflected a clear commitment to fairness and neutrality. With that, I will move on towards the response to Christine Fair, what she suggested to that Pakistani Fulbright student, that there isn't one resolution as far as UN is concerned on Kashmir. Christine, there are 18 till 1971. And what do they tell us? That the international community recognized Kashmir as a dispute. They urge for its resolution through fair means, initially via plebiscite, then adding a layer of negotiated peace, but in accordance with the will of the Kashmiri people. Political strategies, interests, and shifting alliances may throw dust over the original promises, but the records remain clear, archived, and undeniable. Yes, India betrayed its words. These 18 resolutions tells us that international community not only recognized Kashmir as a dispute, rather urge for its resolution through fair means, through plebiscite, negotiated peace, and at times through simply ceasefire enforcement to prevent all out war. Somewhere along the line, real politics, strategic interests, and shifting alliances buried the original promises. But the records remains clear, archived, and undeniable. This vlog isn't meant to win an argument. It was meant to restore balance to conversation that's often tilted by selective memory. To the younger generation, do not settle for sound bites. Do your research. Understand how international law has treated this conflict. And never let anyone tell you that your history starts and ends with Resolution 38. If you find this informative, share it with others, ask questions, and keep the conversation alive for truth, for justice, for peace till the settlement of the Kashmir issue. Um, I'll soon meet you again on another topic, um, maybe more towards the administration and management of the cities. Till then, take care, and it's Khuda Hafiz or Allah Hafiz from my side. Bye bye.